Hello everybody and welcome to day 18 of the V.E.D.A challenge, blog everyday April, and the day 3 of the Q&A session. So let's see what we're going to be taking a look at today. Cbot2, this guy again, asks, do you have a 3DS? If not, do you plan on getting one? I do not currently have a 3DS, but I have been thinking about getting one, although I'm not sure when I'll be able to get around to one. I do like what it's capable of. I like a lot of the games that have been coming out on it. I like the Kid Icarus Uprising, that looks really cool, Super Mario Land 3D. And of course, since my current DS looks like this, the broken hinge and the screen doesn't turn on, I would show you, but I had to take the battery out. And I got a lot of use out of it, mostly because of this bad boy. But I do have some actual games that I have not had a chance to play. I have like Spyro the Dragon, I've got like Heroes of Mana, like the Secret of Mana remake, a lot of other stuff that I would like to get around to. I have Phantom Hourglass that I never finished. I'm kind of curious about Spirit Tracks, and I love the idea of the 3DS eShop. So I want to get one, but I don't really have any opinion about it until I do, so oh well. And these next few questions are all from the same guy, so let's see what he had on his mind. He put a lot of work into these questions, so I'll see if I can kind of shotgun them. Does a hard game make a good game? Not necessarily. There's a big difference between a hard game and an unfair game. It all comes down to a matter of what the risk-reward scenario is. If something is ridiculously hard, but it has a very high risk for failure, then that can be a really punishing kind of game. If something is really hard but has no risk of failure, then it's not actually very hard, is it? If you look at a game like Spelunky, Binding of Isaac, NetHack, where one simple mistake and you're dead. I'm hungry right now, I'm sorry. Where one simple mistake and you're dead, I don't define those games necessarily as difficult or hard so much as dangerous. Spelunky is a perfect example of this, where if you died, usually it's because you did something stupid. Like you jumped down into a pit without checking to make sure there's no spikes in it first. That was kind of stupid, but you learn from your mistakes, which is what makes games like that hard, but makes them so much fun. Because it's a learning experience, and as you get better at it, after every single death, after about 2,000 deaths, you can finally beat the game, and you know every little trick and every little secret that's in there. So, a game does not necessarily have to be hard to be a good game. I think Kirby is the perfect example of that. Those games are notoriously very easy, but they're also incredibly fun due to just really fluid controls, great music, easy monsters, a really creative level design and monsters, and really fun things to use. So a game doesn't necessarily have to be hard, but if it's the kind of game that lends itself well to being a type of hard game, it helps it stand out from the crowd. Stuff like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, the very, very brutally hard games like that being hard is part of their challenge, is part of their allure, part of the fact that you managed to beat Dark Souls. That's bragging rights right there. So a game can be crippled for being too hard, just as it can be crippled for being too easy. So you really have to find a balance there. So being hard doesn't necessarily make a game bad, but if something is ridiculously hard that has no reason to be, yeah, that can get really annoying. A great example of that is something like Silver Surfer. I'm sure the game is perfectly competent, it's just way too fucking hard for anybody to ever consider it a good game. It's not fun anymore. And I think that's the key. When a game starts being too hard so as to not be fun anymore, then you're doing something wrong. So you need to find that balance between not making it too easy, because again, if something is too easy, then again, it's not fun. If you look at something, if you play Doom with the God mode on in every weapon, just IDDQD, IDKFA, ID kick fucking ass, you kill everybody and you kick ass. And of course you can't be stopped, so you can't lose, so what's the point of playing? So it's all about balance, I guess is what I'm saying. It's about balance and the risk-reward scenario. If you do something wrong, you don't necessarily have to completely repeat the entire level. That's what a lot of bullshit games do, is like you miss a jump, so you have to play through the entire level over again just because you missed that jump. It's just a little jump. It's no harder to do a little jump up here than it is to do it way down here. But because there's all that risk of just missing that one jump, that's really kind of unfair. Just because you missed that one jump one time, you have to play through the entire level all over again. and that's where it comes into unfairness and difficulty, and it's not fun anymore. So if you can piece together an answer out of that, that's what I say to that. Are there any popular games like Castlevania 1 that you just cannot stand? There's a lot of games that I've been trying to get into for a while that I have not been able to. One that comes to recent memory is Mass Effect. I have tried on 2 separate occasions to get into that game, and it just seems there's way too much to happen. There's way too many options for how you want to outfit your party, way too many quests you can do, and once you delve into the quest, you're stuck. You're kind of stuck for a couple of hours until you get through there. I went to this planet, and I couldn't leave because they commandeered my ship or something, and I couldn't go back to an earlier save because I think I saved over it or something, or my memory card was corruption. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was just kind of a turn-off for me, and I tried again at a later point, and that's really the bad thing about having to start over in games, is after playing through the intro a couple of times, you get bored of the intro and you don't want to play it again, but you don't want to continue from later in the save file either, so you're just kind of in purgatory. Another couple of games that I haven't been able to get into that I have, Golden Sun. I've tried that on 2 separate occasions and I've not been able to get into it. I have Golden Sun and Golden Sun The Lost Age. I don't want to try The Lost Age without beating Golden Sun first, but I probably won't ever get around to that because Golden Sun seems pretty generic in terms of RPGs. I see on this gaming subreddit, they are constantly posting, this is like one of the most underrated GBA RPGs of all time. If you say so. I mean, it really kind of feels like, hey, look, there's the temple where all the crystals that control the world are kept, that we're not supposed to disturb. Let's go disturb it. Great idea, sir. And they go, so let's go in. It's like, hey, look, it's the crystals that keep the world together. Let's mess them up. Okay. Hey, oh no, messing up the crystals that just keep the world together are destroying the world. Who could have thought this would happen? Yeah, it just seems, I don't really see, unless the game starts getting incredibly mind-blowing later on, I really don't see what the whole deal is with Golden Sun. Are there people you take inspiration from? If you see my video game bunker, you know the big 3. James Rolfe, Doug Walker, Noah Antwiler. Other people that I really admire and respect, Justin Carmichael, Todd Nathanson, even Lewis Lovehog to an extent. But these guys, they did what they had to do. Henry Bailey, H.C. Bailey. He is another great inspiration for me. He is so devoted to his craft. I have said many times, he is scary devoted to what he does. He will play through an RPG. That's like 40 to 80 hours of a game 3 times before he is ready to do an LP of it. That is dedication right there. So I'm sure you can kind of see it in my videos where I kind of nitpick games or tear apart. I take a lot of inspiration from people like Spoonie, Angry Video Game Nerd. They kind of inspired me to do what I do, but I kind of put my own spin on it. I try to do my own thing because I don't want to just outright rip them off. I like coming up with little memes. I like coming up with little running gags. I think my technology one is, I like that. So I'm slowly getting in there. Once I get a bit more on track, once I'm able to juggle things a bit better, I want to get back harder into making videos, but life comes first. I gotta get things in order here before I can start thinking about writing scripts and shooting videos in. But I have a lot of ideas in mind, so you people be ready. Is there a certain game you really want to review, praise the hell out of, or bash the hell out of? Yes, there are a lot of games that I really want to review, but again, I can't get to them until I am able to juggle work and home and hobbies and all that stuff. So until I can get my home life in order and get enough money here so I can pay down my bills, I need to focus on that. But there's a lot of games I want to take a look at, just off the top of my head. Video games, the video game. I wanted to take a look at the really notorious stuff. I even kind of want to take a look at the other stuff that put out, stuff like any of the really controversial stuff, like the games. I'm probably going to edit this out. Yeah, I'm gonna edit out all those because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to spoil what I'm coming up with in the later episodes of Video Game Bunker. But yeah, there's a lot of games that I want to that I want to praise, and a lot of games that I want to tear into. And you're just gonna have to wait and see. I don't want to spoil anything. Do you have a favorite console? This one is always a really tough question for old school gamers to answer because they are going to leave something out. They have to take in everything that that console represents to them. And for me, I think it really kind of was. As I've actually been thinking about this question for a while, and a lot of people will say the NES, but for me, I want to say the PlayStation. Because the PlayStation marked that point where I started thinking about what games I wanted to get. I started thinking about what games I could actually play and what games I actually wanted to buy with my own money. That was the time when I kind of started to be independent of my own, like taking charge of my own entertainment ideas. So I mean, something like with the NES, everybody my age kind of grew up with the NES and they love it, but a lot of the games on it, I always kind of like to be different. So I actually kind of had a thought, if I ever wanted to try to collect all the games of a system, it wouldn't be the NES because everybody does the NES. I think I would try to do the PlayStation, the original PS1. And because the PS1, it marked a turning point. I mean, the Sony was a new player in the console game. It was Nintendo and it was Sega. Then comes this young upstart Sony with this strange new system that used discs. I mean, they had Sega CD before at that point, and they had the CDI and what was it? Not the 32X, the TurboGrafx 16 CD, and of course the Jaguar CD. And those didn't really do too well. But the Sony PlayStation was the first one to really kind of hit it out of the park, and that was up against the Sega Saturn and then the Nintendo 64. And I'm sure you know who won that generation. And the Sega Saturn had some okay games, and the Nintendo 64, I'm just going to come out right now and say it, the Nintendo 64 was not that great. The Nintendo 64 was overrated. It has not aged well at all. I actually did some research and I looked up the different things, and apparently the Nintendo 64 had better resolution than the PlayStation, but it had worse texture filtering. So the games were larger resolution, but they looked worse, which is why N64 games have not aged so well today when a lot of PlayStation games had. And that was the age when a lot of when they were kind of figuring out what they wanted to do with video games, where everything was kind of being forced to go into 3D, even if it didn't have to. Stuff like Castlevania 3D. Meanwhile, the PlayStation had Symphony of the Night, which kept in 2D, and it had these great, gorgeous-looking 2D sprites with just a little bit of 3D effects in there, like the coffin spinning around when you save. I think the PlayStation was a bit more mature in that sense, where it didn't do something just to be gimmicky. I think the N64 was kind of gimmicky in that sense, where every game had to have that 3D component to it, where all their franchises had to go into 3D. I mean, they had Super Mario 64, great game. Ocarina of Time, great game. Again, a little bit overrated. I'll go into that on a later date. But the PlayStation was kind of the best overall system for JRPGs at the time. You have stuff like Legend of the Dragoon, Jade Cocoon, Final Fantasy 7 through 9, Final Fantasy Tactics, and then Final Fantasies 1 through 6, except for 3. So you have like 10 different Final Fantasy games on the PlayStation 1 that you can all play. You can play all of them. So that's just that alone is like a top 10 games for the system. All the Final Fantasies. Alright, so yeah, I want to say the original PlayStation is kind of my favorite console. That's not to say that I don't love the other consoles. I love the Super NES. I have a lot of my favorite games for the Super NES. One of my favorite games of all time, Bionic Commando. I'm kind of ripping off Johnny here, but that was also for the NES. Another one of my favorite games of all time, Zelda 2, also for the NES. So I have a lot of favorite games on the NES and the Super NES, but I think the PS1 was kind of where the industry started going in the direction where it is today, where gamers don't have to be this kind of secluded and somewhat childish culture that Nintendo kind of propagated with the N64. They had a lot more maturity in the PlayStation. It played on discs instead of little plastic toy-looking cartridges that you kind of plug in. No, it was a CD. It was like a music CD. You put that in and listen, and that's what the teenagers were doing. They weren't putting things in their controllers and going, hey. They were putting in their CDs, closing it, and turning it on, and it's like, whoosh, as you hear it spin up, and you hear and you hear the music start off, it's almost an eargasm you have. So yeah, the PlayStation 1. That's my favorite console. If there was a company you wanted to work for, what would it be? Almost going back on what I said, saying that the PlayStation 1 is my favorite console, I would love to work for Sony, but I think the company that I would just absolutely adore working for would be Nintendo. They really do represent my childhood. I mean, they have so many memorable characters and games, and there's just so much you can do with their established franchises that I would love a chance to take my own spin on some of their games. I have ideas for games that could only be done with Nintendo franchises, so I would love a chance to work with Nintendo in the future, but I don't want to pigeonhole myself into one company. Any company that would be interested in hearing my ideas, I would love to work for any of them. But since the answer was if there was a company you wanted to work for, what would it be? My answer is any of them, really. Even EA. As evil as they are, as stupid as some of their business practices are, they publish a lot of cool games, and they would have a lot of connections to better publishers, the people who develop Dead Space and Assassin's Creed and any of those kind of stuff. Ubisoft is like another great company, Naughty Dog, any of these companies I would love to work for, so I really can't pick just one. Yeah, any of them, really. Have you played Mad World? If so, how is it? I have it right here. I have not played it yet. You might be referring to the vlog I did earlier this month where I went to a collectible show and I picked this up for $8. I think it was $8. How much was it? $7. Okay. But I have not had a chance to pop it in yet because I'm in the middle of a lot of other games. I am currently playing Riven. I finished Bioshock Infinite. I'm currently spending way more time than I should in Minecraft. But I'm finally burnt out on it, so I'll probably be starting on something new soon. I've been playing XCOM. I've been playing Final Fantasy 12 that I kind of need to get back into. So yeah, I'm juggling a lot of games right now in between work, so I would love to try Mad World out maybe this weekend. I could probably do a quick look at it, maybe even stream. No, I can't really stream. I can't capture off my video card. But if you really want to know what I think of it, I could check it out this weekend, and I'll see how it goes. What is your definition of a good game, movie, and TV show? That's actually a really difficult question because there is no one thing that makes a game or movie or TV show good. But it's really kind of a combination of everything. You have to have a story that's not cliche, something that's well told, and something that actually has themes that kind of speak to people. If you look at movies, one that kind of comes to mind, I just happen to have this right with me, I was reading it earlier today, is Watchmen. Watchmen is a comic book that is a story that could only be done in comic book or graphic novel format. If you try to make this into just a regular novel, it would lose part of its impact. If you tried to make it into a movie, it would lose its impact, which they did. I still think it's a great movie. I think it's one of the top 5 best superhero movies, but it's not as good as the graphic novel is. And that's the key, is that you make something that could only be done in whatever medium you chose to make it in. Which is a lot of problems that beginning game designers make, is they say they have an idea for a game when really they have an idea for a story. So sometimes if you have an idea for a story, you should just write the story. If you come up with ideas on how to turn that into a game, that's even better. But I think the best games, movies, and TV shows are things that would only work as games, movies, or TV shows. If you have a story that is very long and has a lot of twists and turns, and it has to be sort of a series, something like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad, where you have just so much complexity and character development and things like that, where you have to tell it in terms of, you have to have that length to tell that stuff and develop the characters. If you have a story that is a bit more self-contained and is its own little thing, then yeah, you can make a movie out of it. So yeah, my answer would be something that can only be told in the best way possible in whatever medium you chose to make it in. And I think those are the best examples of those And I think those are the best examples of those kind of stories. And that's it for day 3. Over 20 minutes of this bad boy. But if you have any more questions for me, leave a comment below, and I'll get to them. Probably not tomorrow. I'm probably going to return to our regular scheduled programming. There's got a lot of stuff I want to talk about in later vlogs, but maybe later this month, or I might turn this into a regular thing for this channel. So if you have any questions, ask them below, and everybody take care.